Yeah,
How you doing, man?
bro. How are you?
Fucking beat.
Give me just one moment. I gotta. Every morning I write down a little bit of a message and send it off to a couple family members. Been doing it for like a couple months now.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
So just kind of throwing this together real quick and I'll send it off. I've been publishing a few of them on a blog,
Look at
and some
you.
people are reading them, so that's cool. Boom, done. Nice. Yeah, every morning, dude, I write. It's potent. Yeah, that fucking Resurrection by Prowl is hilarious.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It's fantastic. Hello, it's me, James. You get a like, but I'm not watching your video. You know, metrics.
Did you see what I asked Wraith?
Yeah, I did, bro. You cracked me up, man. you server hacker. That'd be hilarious, though. People picking up Blangs totems.
That awesome.
Oh man,
Every time I
going a little stir crazy, my man.
And I guess it probably. Yeah.
I don't blame you, dude. I was going so stir crazy. I made the wife take us to Walmart yesterday.
And it's not even that. I don't know. Like I'm. To be fair, I'm saying like yeah, probably. This is actually a unique opportunity to go from our personal love life into some philosophy discussion if you're down.
Yeah, sure.
I heard something today that's a little weird, but like also kind of supports like my belief on the whole subject, and is that so if you were to scientifically break down like what love is and what happens in the brain when someone like genuinely falls in love, so there's this brain overload of chemistry, biological chemistry, like dopamine and like all this stuff that makes you just dramatically in love with a person, right? Well, that only biologically lasts. So love, as a biological factor that we know, only lasts 13 months. What do you feel about that?
The eros, the biological, physical, that weird like honeymooner period, I think is what you're referring to.
I guess so. Yeah, I guess it would be. Yeah.
Yeah, that thing goes away for sure. But any relationship based on sex, you and I both know, won't last.
Well, it's not
Unless
it's not.
I'm just.
Sex,
I'm not
it's
saying
like
that it's based on.
love
I'm
at
saying
first
it's
sight.
based on a physical concept, and that's what you're basing that love on. Is just purely the physical reaction. Any relationship
You
based
don't-
on physical
no,
reaction.
No, I'm talking about your brain chemistry. So you're not aware of any of this happening. You're just in love. Your mind. You're just absolutely in love with the person.
Okay, so that whole enamored honeymooner phase thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a thing. That's totally
It
a
has
thing.
nothing to do with the
But-
sexual desire. Like that's a whole
No.
other subject.
Stop. Let me talk. You're not letting me finish. That whole thing is a brain state. Okay, it's an emotional brain state. It will not allow critical thinking, and yes, it does go away. But that is not the only state of love for the brain. That is a state of love, of one type of brain state of love for the brain. The love that I have for my friend is not the same kind of love. It's not the same kind of brain state. The love that I have for my father is not the same kind of brain state as that love. I know for a fact because I did not ever feel like that about my mom or dad. I hope. That would be a really weird biological thing if you did.
It is, because you get dopamine and you just like these weird. I'm talking like there's other. Dopamine isn't the only one. I want to
Right, oxytocin. There's a bunch of them.
Yeah, there's
a bunch of them.
and you do. Get
I
them
understand.
When you see your parents.
It's a cocktail. But what I'm saying is, man, that brain state is an emotional brain state. It's not a critical thinking brain state. It's not a decision brain state.
No, absolutely not. It's definitely not a decision brain state at all.
And I can tell you for a fact that I do still love my wife, and that I have a powerful love for my wife. And it's something that I've decided to have that's lasted longer than 13 months.
So what do you think love is beyond the
When I got married, man, I got married in Vegas. We had the little white wedding chapel We were standing next to a couple that was doing the drive-through wedding in the pink Cadillac with the Elvis impersonator serenading them. Dude, it was pretty awesome. But we got married inside the chapel. We didn't get married in a drive-through deal. We didn't we did, as traditional as we could for a really cool wedding in Vegas. And the minister during the ceremony asked me that question. He asked me what I thought love was. And it was really interesting, too, because I don't think he expected the answer that I was going to give him. And I didn't know what the answer was going to be. I just opened my mouth and it came out. What I had said was, love is a choice. Love is a decision, and love is an agreed-upon commitment. After the weird affection thing wears off, after that sort of enamored, like I have to be around you, that honeymooner thing disappears, what's left is two people who've chosen to live together forever. And so you have to choose to love each other through all of that, no matter what. Love is a decision more than it is a feeling. Not unlike smiling can actually affect your brain state. If you don't feel like smiling, but you smile and you actually start releasing said chemicals into your brain and it starts affecting your mood, so too can you choose to love somebody as opposed to having to rely upon the body to provide that specific feeling for you.
Yeah, and I agree. And I hate you because I guess this is now the shortest podcast we'll ever have because that's exactly damn it.
Well, hey, just stitch it. We'll add it to another one.
It's definitely exactly how I feel. I was gonna say I wanted to see what your whole answer was, and I was gonna come at you with love is a choice.
Yeah. Unfortunately, man, that was my vow at my wedding. Love is a choice.
Love is an absolute choice. Like, yeah, you do fall in love, but like that only.
Yeah, how do you notice somebody? There's got to be some way that you notice them.
And that's not the. It's important to remember that 13 months isn't a one-time thing. Like you're gonna.
No, it can happen over and over. You can re-fall in love and have that weird romance over and over and over again. But that's a choice.
My honeymoon period ended 7 years later when we first had a kid.
But it only ended because you decided it ended. If you somehow were able to look at it as a new phase in your marriage and find more joy and hope in there, then it becomes something else entirely.
And there is.
Instead of mourning what you've lost.
There's plenty. No, I'm with you. But both have to.
I know you are.
Yeah. Definitely.
Absolutely, man.
So, you have any advice out there for? Let's talk about teens. Teens are the ones who have it roughest when they come to this stuff, right? Because they have zero sense of life.
They have a huge perspective on life. Unfortunately,
of the future, they have no sense of future.
It's born out of imagery from media and what they see in classes and these half pictures of what life actually is, because they're living a very protected life. At that point in their life, they've burned their hand on the stove occasionally, but they've never been allowed to actually lean on it. They've fallen, but somebody's been there to dust them off and tell them they're okay. Unfortunately, at that point in life, most teens, I'm not saying all, there's a ton of them that have had to grow up early. From the age of 12, we're basically mom and dad. And these people, they always have seemed wiser, further ahead than everybody around us. And that's because they grew up way faster than all of us. But the average teen, in my opinion, this is just my belief. I'm no expert. I'm no clinical psychologist. My buddy from Johns Hopkins is licensed to treat children. I'm not. But from what he's told me and from what I've read, I've come to believe that these teenagers have led a life that has been given they've been given a leg up in everything, as opposed to the actual leg that they've been given, if that makes sense. And any chance that they get an opportunity to spare the pain, it seems like we as parents, for us, we don't want to see them go through it. We spare them that pain. And we may be doing them a disservice in doing that. And so their examples in life are how we treat people, how people on TV treat people, how they treat each other on social media.
Well, yeah, but let's back up a little bit. Maybe life was definitely like the wrong word for me to use. Like they for a teen, and I can say this, just maybe it's just my experience, but I feel like a lot of teens do feel this way, is that you only have the present. It's right then and now. Like there's no sense of, oh, I'm still going to be here in 10 years. Like none of this is going to matter in 10 years. It's okay. There is, I have met people like that when I was in high school. There is people like that, and those people are usually, they're making a lot of money by now. Let's just say that. Like, but typically, most teens feel like all they have is the present, right? So what advice would you give to someone who feels like, when it comes to love, right, that just that chemical imbalance, and when it comes, and the reason I bring teens like in general is because that chemical overload is stronger than any other time. It's why teens are the way they are. It's so they're so over flooded with all this stuff, you know.
So much going on there.
Yeah. So how should, if a teenager was listening to this and they had just listened to the first part, they now know that whatever, like, what advice do you have for them? That it's really simple, and that it is a choice?
Oh, this is the best advice I think I could give anybody right now. You're a kid. You're going to do what you want, no matter what anybody says. If you want the advice, take it. But if not, go live your best life. Treat people the way you want to be treated. And maybe down the line, you'll see that there is a future in store for you, and that it isn't all about right now.
Definitely, and I agree with you, and I think that, like, I want to stress that like a lot of the biggest issue with being a teenager is deep down rooted the desire for love. That's where all of it comes from. Why you dress the way you do, why you bully people, why you know, it's all to be cool, to be loved and desired by somebody else. And just this chemical overload it's temporary. It's absolutely temporary. And you can think that you are in love with somebody as a teenager, and according to how your brain is working in that time, there is no way to perceive it being any different, and that's hard, but it will be. You know,
I think I would add on one other thing.
What's that?
And that would honestly be, right now is probably the apex of your life so far. You're hitting some of the biggest milestones in your life. You're achieving some of the most emotional highs and lows you've ever experienced in your life.
Yeah, we're talking
now
is your high school, right? Like the later.
We're talking that middle school to high school transition where you're going from young adult to actual adult. You're actually, like, you're pushing through that weird emotional hormonal stage. This is not the end. But if you choose it to be, this can be the apex of your life. If you choose it to be a stepping stone to the bigger parts of your life that you have beyond, there's a lot more to look forward to. And it's really tough to see that right now. And I remember that as a teenager.
Yeah. And I would even say, like, you definitely think it's the apex of your life, but it doesn't have.
It feels like it. And because it is at that moment.
Yeah, and don't let it. But I want to stress, but don't let it stay that way, kids. Like, you don't want high school to stay the apex of your life, because you're only in high school for 4 years and you're going to live for an average of 100. So you don't want those 4 years in the very beginning to be the apex.
Do you want to be that guy who is signing his name with his high school jersey number still at the age of 75?
Oh,
talking
man.
about the good old days.
Oh, man. Oh, it hurts my soul.
I'm just saying, like, if that's what you want to be, I love you for it. That's your choice. I can't stop you from doing that, although I believe that's doing you harm. If that's good for you, then you need to do that. But I don't think that's good for people. And I think,
oh, go
I don't know, I feel like high school can trap you. Just like a job can trap you, like a relationship can trap you, a friendship, a habit, a game, anything can trap you. It's really easy to convince yourself it's the best it's ever going to be, because it's scarier to fail trying than to be told no, I guess. That's something terrifying to people, just to be told no. And I'm here to tell you, no is okay. You got to hear no in order to hear yes. And that's pretty much. I mean, you can't convince somebody that they're doing something wrong if they don't think they are. You're just telling them they're stupid.
Yeah,
Nobody wants to hear.
It's interesting, yeah, because teachers in high school, they'll sit there and fight you. Like, you really don't start learning these lessons when you get to college. And let me tell you, if you're not in college and you're listening to this, when you get to college, if you don't want to show up for class and you don't want to do your homework, nobody's going to tell you to. Nobody's going to tell you to. You're just going to get that.
Just the bank.
Yeah, yeah. You're still gonna have to pay that $40,000, even though you spent a month. Like, yeah. So nobody's helping you through that. You got to do that yourself.
Exactly.
Nobody.
Exactly.
So,
but that's the beauty of choices in life. Is you get to expand yourself if you want to. A lot of people don't have that opportunity.
Even I had that trouble when I got to college. In high school, I was always late. I never went. I felt like I always went because I had to. So when it came to like actually learning what I wanted to learn, even though I was learning what I finally learning what I wanted to, right? After all this time, I did not have the discipline to show up.
I can relate.
Yeah, it's pretty, and I actually ended up leaving college in the end because it's just a downhill spiral, and I needed to figure out my life out because I wasn't ready. Even though everybody else was going to college at 18, I wasn't ready because I didn't spend the time learning what these adults were trying to teach me in high school, I guess.
You remember the movie Billy Madison, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's a line. Are you still in college, Billy? Yeah, 6 years. Yeah, most people do that. They're called doctors. That was me, bro. 6 years, no degree.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I didn't know what I wanted, but at the same time, man, it's interesting. If we're told at a very young age to forecast what we want and move toward it, it's very simple and clear what needs to be done. But that's not what we're told to do. We're told, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? Now, what do we want to accomplish? How do we want to live? And that's a question
awesome.
We've been denied, bro.
That's awesome. Instead of asking, what do you want to do? It's, how do you want to live?
Yeah, and if you want to live a certain way, then it's clear what you need to do.
It's very clear. That's actually really good.
It's been my angle since you met me.
True. And I guess we can also say that college isn't everyone's, thing either. Nobody.
College in the 50s is nothing like colleges today.
Let's face it, Einstein, Tesla, Elon Musk, Thomas Edison, all those guys none of them went to college. They all had colleges in their times, too, kids, because I know it's a little hard to concept the past right now, but they all had colleges. It was all a thing. None of them went. I believe
college was a way to learn how to write.
Yeah, it's weird. It's never been the source. It's where the academic scholars tend to like meet up, but almost
I think we
none
were
of
fed
them
this
attended
line,
them. You know, like
bro. If you couldn't do it, you taught it. That's what it was. If you weren't functional with the skill in real life, like you couldn't make it work, then you taught about it in school. Like, that was the joke. And unfortunately, it seemed to be more and more true. You go to Ivy League schools and you have professors that are actually working in their field. But most of these universities' professors, full-time theorists about their stuff, and they're not even working in the field.
no, I mean I'm applying for a lot of jobs right now, and I can apply to any teaching position. It doesn't matter what it is. There's no experience necessary. They're going to teach it to you. So teachers spend all summer. A lot of students don't realize this too. So you think about this when you're enjoying your summer break. All summer long, teachers are in school learning what they have to teach the next year. Even if they already know it, they have to go through a refresher course. So you don't have to know shit to be a teacher. They're going to teach it to you. Or tell you what you need to tell them. And I think that's where a lot of the disconnect comes from, because a lot of these teachers don't believe in what they're teaching anymore. And I've seen teachers who passionately believe in what they're teaching and get royally fucked by a new principal just because they have a not so good relationship outside of the school prior to that principal becoming that principal. You know what I mean? One of my favorite teachers, his whole passion was to bring the knowledge of law and just how forensics worked, and just educated everybody in the high school about laws, street law, criminal law, psychology. He brought all those personally to our school, which you have no idea how much that helped. Like the ghetto, dude. You don't get much ghettoer than Lynn at the time. Maybe Lowell. But that's about it. That's about it. Like, it is ghetto. So it helped us all out, and man, it was pretty cool. But then my senior year, new principal, that all got taken away, and he's a history teacher now. He doesn't even fucking like history. So everybody after my generation who gets to know this teacher gets to learn history from him, and that's not even something he likes. So you think that they're going to get a good education, or as good as an education as they got from him that I did? Absolutely not.
I don't know if I can even go with public education as a good education versus daycare, but
I think education itself needs to be completely reinvented.
But it's not.
His school, I think, is really good, but we have to see the outcome of it first.
You do realize our education system is based on an old 19th century Austrian model that produces soldiers and factory workers, right?
I think that's clear.
With the stand-up, sit-down, ring a bell, buzz.
Yep.
Grading your effort like you would grade.
And working in a factory, in a warehouse, as someone who's done that for quite a while, is exactly like high school. It's exactly like high school. Everybody acts that way too, because that's exactly. You're right. You hear that bell, you're sitting. It's like you go to lunch, you come back. It's exactly high school.
Oh, there's the bell. Now you get to act like a jackass to each other.
Yep, and a lot of people, and again, kids, if you're still listening, you're going to fall into that after high school. You're going to get your first job, and it's going to be like this weird reality check where you learn nothing good about life in high school. You learned all the crap. So you're going to have some really bad habits kind of built into you already. That bell, you're going to act like a jackass when that bell goes off. And then your boss
There's going to be moments that you've taken for granted because you thought that's the way they are.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I mean,
unfortunately, that's our fault as parents and as teachers and as administrators because we've wanted to protect you.
Yeah, it's really weird, and they always say, you know, high school teachers will drill into your head again and again and again and again that we're preparing you for college. Possibly in the way that I stated earlier, where you need to show up. Like, you need to do it yourself. Nobody's going to hold your hand. Like, you need to do the research yourself. You need to learn how to... I guess homework's very important. Learning how not doing your homework per se, but learning how to do homework is super important.
Not necessarily getting it right, but actually following through with finishing it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what the homework is. It's just like learning how to do it. Learning how to research something is possibly like... And you... It's funny because you get to college, right? And as long as you show up and you're on time, they're going to teach you everything from the ground up, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, whether you agree with it or not, whether it's right or not, they'll teach you from the ground up.
You know what my first semester's courses were after graduating high school? Biology 101, Composition 101, and Computers 101.
Learn the basics on everything all over again.
It's like I didn't even need to go to high school at all. So there is that too. College can be a real pain. I'm having a lot of problems with online schooling. I don't like online schooling. I don't believe in online schooling because it's just not... They follow the same laws as regular schooling, and that's not how it should be. Because, for example, they always want Michelle to do PowerPoints in her school. How are you going to do a PowerPoint in an online school when the entire point of a PowerPoint is to stand and talk? And they ask for all this data to be in the PowerPoints and all this stuff. And I'm sitting there looking at her, and I'm like, they are teaching you how to do the most terrible PowerPoint. You're going to get out into the real world and have to do a PowerPoint in front of a business person, and it's going to be terrible because this online school will not give you the satisfaction of teaching you the right way.
Well, here's one for you. What if universities in general just aren't there to teach you the right way? They're just there to make money.
Yeah. And I guess seeking an education and going to college, you have to look at it at two different things. And you could... College is an excellent resource to seek education, but it's not the ultimate source. Like, it's... If you know it, if to look in the right spots, Google is probably better. It's just there's just too much on there. You have to know where to look, and there's nobody guiding kids through the internet. And I think that's...
What's the purpose of college for you, man? What do you think the end goal? Like, why would you go to college? Like, as a student right now, what would be your motivating factor?
It's the same thing that it always should be, to learn what I am passionate about. Like, it has nothing to do with fucking biology. It has nothing to do with this or that. It's learning what I am passionate about and starting from there. Like, and I actually
do you
think you should start as a kid. Sorry.
Do you think many people hold that concept true, though?
No, they just...
Why do you think most people are going to college?
Because you need it to get a job.
And then you look at these professors that are the guys with all the knowledge, right? They're the smartest guys on earth. They have all the money, right? So knowledge equals money, right?
It's terrible, and I think it needs to be relooked at. And I think Elon Musk's school is a good example. It's just too new, and he's makes some eccentric choices, so it's interesting to see what he'll do. But the whole premise is based off of the Scandinavian countries, where they don't necessarily... They go to school, but not in the way that we think of.
I've read interesting articles where they're talking about a 4-hour school day, 3 to 4 days a week, and the kids are performing at higher levels cognitively, socially,
because
emotionally.
they have more time to learn what they want to learn. A kid's going to learn what they want to learn. They're not going to do anything else.
And they're also integrating into society a lot better because they're not sitting in a room all day.
Yeah, it's amazing what those countries like Sweden and Finland are doing out there. It's like, and then you wonder why, they're always on the top charts as like one of the most highly educated, happiest, most content places to live. Like,
but I feel also too you misplace the intentions of American public education.
how so?
I don't think it's there to educate the kids. I think it's there to keep them in line and watch them while we work to pay God knows why so much money for what. I don't know, but that's really where I see schools are now.
So
initially, maybe not, but right now that's their purpose, and you can see people screaming at the seams because they got to sit at home with their kids and they don't want to.
I think schools. Yeah, I mean, you're probably right. I mean, and I think the discourse in our country is a clear indication that the whole thing needs to be reformed in some way. But I think a good start, man, is the schools. I think it's a good start. Like, just, we're messed up. Our generation's messed up. We probably messed up Generation Z. So let's prepare a new generation so that way when they finally get up and they take over, they can not be us. I guess.
I don't know so much that we messed them up or they're messed up or unable to change. I don't know if it's any of that, man. I think it's the system itself is geared toward keeping it in line, keeping itself in line. And the whole system itself just has to be looked at. And if any generation, ours, theirs, the next, the one before us, can figure out a way to fix it that works for everybody, then let's go that way, whatever it is. And let's not just rely on the future to fix our problems for us.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it's very interesting talking to the adults now. Being a millennial, holy crap. The things that we have had to face growing up and the things that we have to do and that we know that we have to do is incredible. Incredible. Like, so much weight on a millennial's shoulders.
There's a lot of pressure, man.
All while the people who should be guiding us are calling us idiots. It's pretty terrible.
They're telling us to go our own way. We're choosing to do that. They don't like it, and it doesn't make sense, and it's unrelatable because we're using things they don't understand. We're relating on levels that they've never related before, and we're doing things they've never done before, even though we've all done the same thing. We're all doing the same thing.
Yeah, and it's, and I think it's funny because I hate that Gen Z uses the word boomer. I get that it doesn't necessarily mean baby boomer anymore. Like, it's taken its whole new meaning. But I don't even think, like, everybody puts so much crap on the baby boomers, but everybody just gives Gen X a pass. Like, Gen X does not get a pass in my eyes. Like, they're the ones who are in power right now, and they have us fooled into thinking it's the baby boomers, but the baby boomers are fucking 90.
It's always interesting to look at if you go several generations before and look at the progression, and it's actually logical and deductive if you look at the direction that society's headed. If you look all the way back to the generation before the great ones, the ones that established everything that made it through World War One. You go from those mentalities and what they went through each generation, and you see the children that are born taking what they saw as the best from all of it. It's wild because this progression could almost be forecast. I read a book that actually forecasted this direction and the logic behind it. And it was a book about Gen Y, which was interesting. It used technology and social media as the platform for all of it. And this was back in like 2013.
I don't believe social media really. I don't think it impacts our culture in a way that a lot of people think.
It's affected decision making and the concept of instant payoff. Delayed gratification has begun to disappear because of things like social media. The unfriend, dislike,
I think,
like.
yeah, I think
That
that would
stuff.
happen without social media. I think that's a byproduct as the internet as a whole. Let's face it. So
Well,
Facebook,
of
Instagram
course,
don't exist.
but
You still got Amazon.
social media itself is one thing that's in everybody's hands. Is not everybody can pick up an order from Amazon. You can't hand it to grandma, but grandma can still go on Facebook and look at what the prince from Nigeria is going to send her money. You know, like.
I guess, but that's more like a shoulder pat to Facebook. They try. Remember, they used to
I'm
have the
just saying.
commercials with all the old ladies. Like they knew what they were doing. They got everybody on Facebook.
But those are the tools that got it in their hands that started getting the thinking in that direction. Yeah, it's the internet as a whole. It's technology. Your phone is set up like a vending machine, not like a book where you turn the pages to get to the next thing. You have options.
But they said the same exact thing about like TVs. That it.
Oh, of course, and it has shaped how you perceive things. A television has created a way that you perceive things. It's not necessarily the way you perceive them, but it is a way. Look at how Madden changed how they filmed sporting events. It shaped it. These things have effect on us. I'm not saying they're causal.
Yeah,
but they do shape how we affect.
It's so much more.
See things.
I just think it's so much more complicated, and or maybe a lot less complicated. It's hard to say either way, because like you look at all these pictures, and someone will post a picture of a family like on their couch, and mom will be on the cell phone, dad will be on the cell phone, and the kids will be on like their tablets or something, and they'll be like, "Look how social media is separating these families." And then someone with any sort of logic will put a picture of that same family. Well, let's go say the 90s. All that family is looking at the TV. They're not talking to each other, are they? Go back even further.
It's the same. I agree.
Yeah, before the TV, everybody's sitting reading their own book.
I'm with you, man. I'm tracking. Yeah. But also keep in mind, those things that you're talking about weren't interactive. You weren't getting a dopamine hit.
Yes,
when somebody liked your thing.
Yeah, but you're getting
when somebody liked your thing. No, it wasn't directly at you. It was a general thing. It was a general message that was pushed out to the general public. The messages weren't being directly beamed into your face specifically for you with emotional reactions directly directed toward you.
That's the whole concept of TV.
Those are generalized messages, dude. I studied that stuff in college, man. I know you did too.
Yeah,
they're general messages to reach as many people as possible. The difference with social media is these are directed messages meant to be as specific as possible.
No, I think TV has always been localized to like at least that town. It's never been.
They're generalized messages for a general population, reaching thousands, where Facebook can reach tens, specifically.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I watched a dissection of Millennial Media and how it relates to everything we're talking about, and it's a fascinating subject. And like it's interesting to see all of these debates that we're talking about right now in play, and there's a good couple examples of that. Like one show is Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. I don't know if you watched that show. Like that one's probably the best one because it takes place. This girl is Kimmy's obviously a millennial. Millennials can be. But when she was, say, 12 or so, like very young, before coming of age, she was kidnapped and raised in a bunker for 15 years. So the show starts with her being released from the bunker, and all of the comedy from the show, and most of it comes from the fact where she's a millennial, right? But she has very deep baby boomer beliefs in the beginning because she was raised in a bunker with no technology. And you get to see her fully integrate with like society, and technology does not change her being a naive person at all. Like, none of that changes when she gets integrated with technology. And the even more fascinating thing is that when she meets people in the real world, she is still somehow emotionally on the same level, just like child-wise as like adults too. Like, there's so many like ups and downs with like being a millennial. Like, yeah, technology really didn't affect her very much, but she is still emotionally on the same level as all the millennials around her, even though she spent 15 years locked in a bunker. Like, none of the other kids have grown up. Like, they're all still like trying to figure it out. Millennials are still trying to figure it out, even though they're all in their 20s. Like, they should have jobs, houses, and all that stuff, but they're not. We figure it out that we don't.
There's a book, if you're interested. It's called Gen IY. It's by Tim Hyman or Elmore. Tim Elmore is his name. He's written the book several times over, making sure to include up-to-date technologies and studies. It's all statistics-based, his research, and it specifically talks about how the cell phone, the personal device, has sort of changed everything, not just social media, but everything involved with the personal PDA, the iPhone, whatever you want to call it, from the beginning to the end iteration. But he also takes into account previous generations' motivations, examples of economic stability / instabilities, global economic markers. It's an interesting book. It gives a very, very great perspective for somebody who doesn't understand the millennials' struggle. And it's a positive book that is about how there's a lot to the millennials that is untapped and available and just needs to be directed. It's not a matter of stopping and changing. It's just a matter of inching it in another direction, and it becomes some of the most powerful energy and production in the world. It's a very cool book.
Oh man, I do think that's absolutely true. Sorry, that like, yeah, I think millennials have the power to change the world, but we don't know how to do it at all. We don't have anybody guiding us.
There are people out there that want to help, but it's very difficult to help people who are very headstrong and think that they know everything. And unfortunately, that comes with being young.
Yeah, that has to do with
being well-intentioned.
Because
it comes with dude, it comes with a lot of different things, man.
I think you'll find that millennials will quickly be out of that category of headstrong, because a lot of that came with us being so vocal so young. But I mean, I'm probably one of the last millennials probably, and I'm 27 now. Like, I think the youngest millennial is 25, 26. So I think I think that's gonna change because we're obviously growing up. Generation Y gets grouped up into this whole millennial mess a lot too. Like, it's funny because baby boomers call everybody millennials, and then Generation Y calls everybody above them boomers. It's like there's this weird. No, we're all the same, guys. That's why. Stop it.
All right, man. Well, hey, I got a jam.
All right. It's been an interesting talk. I don't know if there's many lessons to take out of it, but I liked it.
Hey, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
All right, man. Have a good day.
You too.
Peace.